The New York Times declared in 2023 that Americans are losing faith in the value of college. This is a worrying prospect. College is not just a vector for learning, but also an integral part of the identity of our nation. College education has historically been the medium by which America fulfilled its promise to reward hard work and talent with success. So why are Americans beginning to grow wary of the institution we once cherished?
In America, we believe that your success should be a function of your effort. Our current system of financing education does not live up to that ideal.
It's easy to observe that the value of a college education relative to its cost is decreasing. The average annual cost of private college increased by 218% between 1963 and 2021, while the median household income increased by just 14%. This means that in 1964, the median household had to save about a year's worth of income to send a child to a private college. In comparison, the median household must now save 2.5 years' worth of income to send a child to college.
We are seeing rising student debt, and there are certainly lots of people who struggle with those costs.
Yet, despite this dramatic increase in cost, between 1964 and 2015, the average starting salary of a college graduate actually declined by 4% in real terms.
I do think it's too expensive, and it's becoming out of reach for far too many Americans. And the problem is, if we have less people going to our colleges and universities, we have less talent in our country. Then we don't have as many people voting and donating money, and our communities are not as healthy as they could be. So it's definitely a national and a community issue that we need to think about.
The solution may seem obvious at first. Many have proposed that the federal government should further subsidize higher education.
And so people have proposed doing things like doubling the Pell Grant. That's something I would support.
And perhaps even consider student loan forgiveness.
I announced my administration's plan to forgive up to $10,000 in federal student loan debt.
Unfortunately, these measures could paradoxically drive up college costs even further.
The student debt cancellation and relief measures announced by the Biden administration would meaningfully boost inflation.
The Bennett hypothesis holds that increases in financial aid and government-funded loans cause colleges to raise the cost of tuition because colleges have an inelastic supply curve. Supply is inelastic when the amount of a good, in this case higher education, supplied doesn't increase significantly as the demand for the good, and hence the price increases.
To some extent, colleges feel like they can raise their costs because of the availability of federal financial aid. Research has shown that the difference in tuition between programs that are eligible for federal financial aid and comparable ones that aren't is actually equal to the size of the Pell Grant.
When you subsidize something, you get more of it, and in this case, you get higher college tuition because you've made it easier for students to pay tuition.
Federal subsidies for higher education have increased by 410% between 1970 and 2019 in inflation-adjusted terms. However, despite the number of U.S. high school graduates increasing by around 24% between 2002 and 2021, thereby increasing demand, the number of degree-granting post-secondary institutions actually declined by about 6% during this period. Because the startup costs associated with creating or expanding a post-secondary institution are so high, colleges don't use additional federal funding to provide education to more students. Rather, it is more profitable to simply raise prices in response to this increased funding. Students have been willing to pay these exorbitant fees since the federal government is partially footing the bill, and since those with bachelor degrees earn 68% higher than those with high school diplomas and have a 45% lower unemployment rate.
Federal government and states too should not be providing subsidies for students to attend higher education. Nobody knows what the true market is for higher education because we subsidize it so much.
This money is poured into luxurious amenities such as sports facilities and student lounges, faculty salaries, and an increase in non-academic staff. For example, in 2021, just 37% of expenses at four-year private nonprofit institutions was on instruction.
We have seen an explosion of vice presidents, counselors, diversity coaches, and all types of administrative staff that have nothing to do with giving their students a means of finding employment.
The problem lies in the fact that the federal government has little to no way to control the cost of education provided by private and state institutions.
I think the government is right to subsidize higher education, but a problem is that it subsidizes college without any measure to restrain cost.
While federal financial aid and student loans allow lower-income students to attend college, there may be a better solution. Like most other OECD nations, the United States needs to create a public university system at the national level. This national university system could be funded with the money currently used to subsidize private post-secondary institutions. And the federal workforce already employs a disproportionate number of individuals with advanced degrees. In 2014, about 25% of federal workers had at least a master's degree, in contrast to less than 10% of workers in the private sector. Many of these highly educated federal workers currently serve as adjunct faculty at institutions of higher learning, and could be used to staff a national university system inexpensively. Moreover, with many federal buildings across America now underutilized due to remote work by federal employees in the aftermath of COVID, the infrastructure for a national university system already partially exists. In the inaugural State of the Union address, George Washington promoted the idea of a national university system to unite a fractured country. Given how divided our country currently is, the moment for a national university system is now. The United States needs to stop giving private colleges handouts and instead needs to provide higher education itself.